I believe there are two types of people when it comes to parking at the supermarket. Those drivers that care and respect for those that need to use the parent, child or disabled bays, and those that don't care. Maybe it's because they've got a fancy sports car and they want the extra space. Maybe it's just because they don't care. But what happens when you get it wrong? This can cause quite a bit of argument, and I'll give you a real life example from my own personal experience. So one day I was picking up my wife and son from the supermarket, knowing that they were already there. They'd walked there from somewhere else. I was on the way back there from somewhere else, and I was parking. Now, given that he was very young at the time, it was still necessary to use the parent-child bays, but obviously when I arrived, I didn't have a child with me. Did I feel guilty parking in that space when I was getting out with no child with me? I noticed some people looking at me with a bit of a stern look, as if to say, you shouldn't be using that bay. And I felt guilty, even though I was collecting my son and wife from the supermarket, and we would need the extra space because we had the pushchair and so on. But this is where it can get difficult, because if you wrongly assume that someone doesn't need the space, either because you assume that they're not disabled because to you they don't look disabled, or because in my situation they are collecting someone from the supermarket and they don't yet have the child with them, what if you get into an argument with that person? How embarrassing might that be if, in fact, you're wrong? There's more than one story I've read in just the last couple of days. One about this issue here, about the disabled and parent-child bays, and another about someone being misidentified as having a disability in a supermarket using the disabled toilet. Now, not all disabilities are visible, and in some situations, as in my case here, you won't know whether or not they are actually using that bay as a parent-child bay, for example, because you don't know all of the facts. And now it's very difficult in many different situations to know what to do and know what to say, and to make a reasoned and sound and correct judgment about the situation. Because as I said, if you don't have all the facts, you cannot make that determination. Now, it's one thing for another member of society to get a little bit stern with you, making the assumption that you're using this bay incorrectly or illegitimately. What if you're given a parking charge notice by the supermarket? What if I was given a parking charge notice by the supermarket because technically I'm using it outside of their terms and conditions for parking? Therefore, if they have a parking charge system in place and there's relevant signs only to use the bays for that purpose, they might have issued me with a parking charge notice. Unless, of course, they saw me on the return to the vehicle as well as the arrival, and then confirmed that actually I am using it for a legitimate purpose. So this can give rise to many parking charge notices being issued when they're not justified, and worse still, it can give rise to arguments between members of society when that argument is not justified. But one thing does go through my mind is that those people that do use these spaces that genuinely do not have a reason to use them, what would they think if they had a child or if they had a disability and then came to use one of those spaces and they were all full by people that genuinely don't need them? It's a bit like the lifts in a very busy shopping centre. If you don't need to use the lift because you don't have a child or you don't have a disability or you don't need to use a wheelchair and you can just walk on the stairs or the escalators or whatever, then surely if the situation were reversed and those people did need to use it for those reasons, but they couldn't because lots of other people were using it, surely they would feel the same thing? I find that a little bit curious. But again, the same things apply. Just because you don't see a disability doesn't mean someone doesn't have it. And so even if they look like they're walking about perfectly normally, you don't know that they don't have severe arthritis and that they can't manage the stairs, for example. So I bring this up for discussion on this channel and in the comment section below because I've read more than one story in the last couple of days, and I've been sent more than one story like this in the last couple of days about people arguing and debating and getting upset by it, and people getting parking charge notices for things exactly like this, when perhaps people have just simply misunderstood. So do let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you give up these spaces to those that need it? Do you give up your seat on a train or a bus if you see someone else that needs it more than you do? Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching.